Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after, Japanese air squadrons.
That's dope, dude. That came out really good, man. I'm proud of you. Good stuff.
Donkey shins.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's newest, latest, greatest, awesomest, most extra spectacular episode. Yes, I've had some caffeine. I'm sorry. But welcome to our latest episode of the Battle Bros podcast with Mac and Alamo. My name is Mac. This is Alamo over here. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're coming back, hey, welcome back. We're two guys that have been best friends since high school. Many moons ago. Not to steal any bits, but too wild and crazy. No, I'm not gonna say that. So. But we've been friends since high school. We both went on to join the military post 9/11, part of the GWAT generation. Similar and different experiences along the way, but that's kind of what makes this whole thing work. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. But if you're new to the show, hey, kick back, relax. Hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation. You can find any of our older episodes on the easiest way is to go to our YouTube page, Battle Bros Podcast. Yes. All of our podcasts that we've done so far, all previous 116 are on there for you to watch and or listen to.
And enjoy.
Exactly. Whenever we do a new show, we go live right shortly after 9:00 on Friday afternoons, and we talk about different things as it relates to the military veteran community with a couple of different variations here and there. Like we're going to do tonight, we're actually doing a historical themed episode like we did last week. So yeah, but from our YouTube page, you can check out all of our other social media stuff. We have you can go to Twitter, you can go to X, you can go to which one is it now? Is it X?
We're on X. Yeah.
Okay.
So
you can go to all the applicable social media stuff, and anywhere that you can find podcasts, and so just search Battle Bros Podcast. You can hear our stuff. Hopefully,
we're pretty much on most of the socials.
Yeah,
I think minus Threads now.
I don't even know what Threads is, but
yeah.
But anyway, so if you caught our show last week was episode 116, and we were talking about the event known as the World War I Christmas Miracle. British and German troops came out of the trenches and were playing soccer, exchanging gifts, all that good stuff. So now that we're officially in the Christmas season, we're kind of talking about, that, and then tonight's episode as well, we're going to kind of be doing the same thing, although slightly a little bit different several years later after that first one. If you didn't get it from the intro, we are going to be talking about Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor took place on December 7th, 1941. That will be this Sunday, December 7th, 2025. So it
same exact day of the week, too.
It was on a Sunday. That's right. It was. So 84 years ago on Sunday is when all this went down. We're going to talk about the historical significance and just kind of recall some facts and whatnot. And just kind of, with a lot more of these World War I vets, dying off. Like they actually had an article talking about how one of the last Navajo code talkers out of this one unit, he was the last guy and he passed away at 101. He was actually in... I want to say he was actually over in Europe somewhere. I think he was either at I have to look it up, but remind me, I'll look it up later. But he was actually
Anyway.
somewhere where like I think he might have been like Japan or in Europe or some stuff like that, and he passed away. He was the last one of his unit. The Navajo code talkers were heavily relied upon because the Japanese could not break their native language, using that for the coded transmissions for different units up and along the marine lines when they were fighting. So pretty cool
Yar.
stuff. But anyway, like I said, if you caught our show last week we talked about the Christmas Miracle, episode 116. This week is episode 117, and we are going to be discussing and remembering the events of Pearl Harbor in 1941. As you heard, as part of that video montage, again, to my awesome video producer and co-host Alamo over here, he does all the video stuff because I'm 41 and I still draw stick people. And that's all you need to know. So we're going to leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm throwing myself under the bus, and that's fine because it's called knowing your limitations, folks. And I know that I still fucking draw stick people. So, yeah. Anyway, so Pearl Harbor. So, what a lot of people know about Pearl Harbor is that there were quite a few. There was a good chunk of the Pacific Fleet that was harbored at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii.
Yep.
And they were attacked by some naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan using the kamikaze, which was translates to the divine wind. All these guys are pretty much blessed by the Emperor to give their lives in pursuit of a military goal of stopping, crippling, or at least damaging the Pacific Fleet that was anchored in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
how do you fight that stuff? You got all these guys in Mitsubishi Zeros coming off the decks of these things. They're not coming back. They know they're not coming back, and they're just crashing and yeeting themselves. I said yeeting. I know they yeeted themselves into all these ships and whatnot, and it's just
at least you didn't say yeetus and deletus. But
no, because listen, I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder. That's the great fat electrician. So hey,
AKA Nick, the fat electrician.
So, Alamo, you're the history buff, man. I'm gonna let you kind of take charge from here. So you kind of go with what you want.
This is a really awesome subject, freaking. And obviously,
hold up. I completely blew past the news, dude.
Do the news.
My bad. So before we get into this, and admin halt, take a knee. Hold on for a second. So one thing that was in the news this week that we caught. So there was a bill that was passed. I believe it was on Monday. I believe. Let me just check this article out right here. Okay, yeah. So on Monday, that's crap. This was on here earlier, and now all of a sudden it's freaking not letting me see the rest of the article. That's garbage. So basically,
I mean, I pretty much got the entire article here if you want to. I've got it.
Fantastic. So it basically what happens is when there's a living recipient of the Medal of Honor, they receive a pension for the rest of their life. The pension normally sits at just under $1,500 a month, so it comes out to about just under $17,000 per year. So they call this the Monetary Enhancement for Distinguished Active Legends, or Medal Act. Catchy name there, guys. Good job. Basically ups that stipend or pension from almost $1,500 to $5,600 a month. So that goes from about 17 grand annually to about $67,500 per year. So it's like, and that's kind of awesome. Like, listen, these guys have gone above and beyond, and we should be trying to afford them anything that we can because they represent the best of us when it comes to actions in a military manner and whatnot. So, like, I mean, you could argue against it, but I would be hard pressed to ask for like evidence why that's not a good thing. So, but it is what it is. So anyway, I mean, because that's pretty dope though. Can you imagine if you're Sergeant Major Payne, who was the one that Trump awarded a while back, I believe in his first term, you're still on active duty, so you're making E9 pay. You're on jump status, being a member of Delta and whatnot. So you're getting all these great allowances and whatnot, and you're getting, that money. In addition to that, it's like that's not bad. Okay, it's pretty
It's
awesome.
not too shabby.
Not shabby at all. So, yeah. But that was the only news that I found, and I kind of didn't do a good job of looking for news this week. So. But anyway, so getting back to what we were talking about, we're talking about Pearl Harbor because that is the 84th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, happens on Sunday. Do we want to mention the movie or no?
Nobody mentions the movie.
Okay. Sorry, guys. We're going to skip the movie. I mean, Josh Hartnett was in it. Ben Affleck. Kate Beckinsale, who... Oh.
I mean, it's great fiction.
We're talking about Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale.
Oh, whoa. Like, people are listening to this in the car going... They're like, you did the Hannibal Lecter noise. Like,
I'd like to eat
a nice Chianti.
I'd like to eat
like, we're not talking about goddamn...
I'd like to eat
Dr. Lecter.
With some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I'll tell you this, you're good at being creepy. Anyway, so yeah, the movie is historically based fiction because it does happen during a real event, but there's a lot of fictitious storyline in the movie, so it's like
there is.
So
quite a bit.
But I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and we were talking about like this person was saying that they really enjoy watching like period pieces, like historical, like Downton Abbey and some of the newer stuff.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, where would you go back in time to? He said, because I know what time I'd go to. So she's like, what? And I said, the 1940s, because coming out of the freaking Depression, everybody dressed nice. Guys wore suits, ladies wore dresses. Everybody was in good shape. Everybody we didn't have all this processed fast food shit that we have nowadays. Like, just the cars were cooler. Guys knew more stuff. It was masculinity was not toxic, shall we say?
Yeah.
Just put it at that. So it was just a different time, man.
That's what it was, man.
Chivalry was still much a thing. Like, I would love to go back in time, just be like, just walk around in a suit and a fedora.
And nobody was afraid of, clocking somebody across the freaking head if, they disrespected a woman, which, hey, you should do that now, even nowadays. So,
let's not get into our previous conversation we had before the show started.
Yeah, exactly. But,
but anyway, so I love the 40s. My one of my favorite movies is 1941, which is a fantastic movie. You still haven't seen that, have you?
That's the one with is it
there's a lot
is
of
not Jim Belushi,
John Belushi,
John
Belushi, Robert Stack, Tim Matheson, Dan Aykroyd. Like, there's a lot. It's a big ensemble cast, and the whole movie takes place. So in real life, after the events of Pearl Harbor, paranoia swept the whole Western seaboard, up and down California, all the way to Washington. They're like, oh my God, we're next, and all this kind of stuff. So the movie is a comedic, farcical kind of approach to that concept, but it's just absolutely ridiculous. They don't make fucking comedies like that anymore, man. I'm gonna have to bring that over and we'll watch it because I have a copy of it. I don't know why I'm repeating myself. It's like I'm doing a Milli Vanilli or some shit over here, like crazy. But anyway, I'll have to bring it over. We'll watch it, man. It's a classic movie, dude. It's fantastic. But anyway, so getting back to what we were talking about. So Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
So
right. So some context on a few things too. There's a reason why the Japanese had hit us so hard that day as well. So oh my God, who was the I feel like I looked up his name too. Hold on, give me a second. There was, essentially what we had, which were kind of spies that and the reason they hit us so hard that day is because they essentially had enough intel to know how the ships were essentially, at harbor, how they were settled next to each other, how close they were next to each other.
Now, do we have any images of that? Of like how any diagrams of anything like showing Battleship Row?
I think there is. I'm trying to find it.
So
I
while
think I
he looks that
researched it.
up,
Yeah.
while he looks that up, so what they did was when the battleships and a lot of these surface vessels were parked and moored at Pearl Harbor, they were all kind of buddied up 2 by 2. So the whole ship became known as Battleship Row. Basically, because all these battleships and whatnot. So there's
Takeo Yoshikawa was the Japanese spy who gathered intelligence on Pearl Harbor prior to the attack on December 7th, 1941, posing as a vice consul named Tadashi Morimura. He arrived in Honolulu in March 1941 and conducted extensive surveillance of U.S. naval activity by touring the island via car, boat, and taking photographs from hills overlooking the harbor, and even renting a small plane for aerial reconnaissance. He also engaged in underwater spying, diving near warships in the harbor while breathing through a hollow reed to observe their positions and configurations. His detailed reports, transmitted via the Purple Code, played a crucial role in enabling Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the guy that you see in most of the movies, like, again, like Pearl Harbor,
Flags of Our Fathers,
Tora, Midway, things like that. And he to finalize the plan for the attack. Let's see. Trying to see if there's any see, like if we look here, there is, okay, it talks about him in this article, but it also has a photo. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and share this real quick. Now, this guy, he gathered as much details as he possibly could about.
Now, remind me again, Alamo, this is a guy that we used, or this is a guy that they used?
This is a guy that the Japanese used.
And they sent him over here.
Yes. And as you can see from the detailed drawings, this is what he got from that, so that you could see how, how the ships were at port and everything else. Did detailed drawings again. And, you're talking about aerial, photographic, diving, all types of crazy crap, right? And that right there is the reason why we were hit so hard on December 7th, 1941. Because not only did you have somebody that was, familiarizing himself with how our ships were, taken to port, but how they were even laid out in a way that made it simple for them to be able to, like, okay, we're gonna fly in, even down to like knowing where our radar was, where the Army radar was and everything else, and knowing that they could fly in certain areas to essentially be mistaken for something else when they flew in. And all of that was done deliberately. Now, of course, there's debate a lot of the times from what I've seen on, different, historians have different ideas about the guy that dismissed the big blob that he saw on the radar. I'm pretty sure you know about it. It was God, what was his name? His name was
the naval officer.
I think he was Army, actually.
I know you're referring to. So there was a radar installation and placement near the area, and because it was new, they saw like a big, massive, reading on the radar coming through which ended up being the Japanese fleet, and they were just like, we don't know what this is, and he pretty much got blown off and kind of ignored from higher up until they came out to survey the damage. He goes, "You believe me now?" Kind of pretty much,
Yeah, Kermit Tyler. Kermit Tyler was the guy. He was in the Army Air Corps, and he was a first lieutenant, and he dismissed it. Now, again, the thing about it is like a lot of people, there's some historians that say like, oh, well, he didn't really, dismiss it on, that blatantly. It was a little bit more kind of calculated, he just, because apparently there was supposed to be, a flight coming in at that point of that day as well. And that's what, a lot of the movies kind of like, when you look at some of the movies, they kind of almost make him look incompetent. And like some of these historians are actually saying like, no, like it wasn't even really like that. It was just a simple misunderstanding from the read.
Which I'm going to pause you right there because you bring up a very, very, very poignant topic right there. And the fact that don't rely on movies for your history. Because look at also they had in Titanic, when that one dude shot the dude because he was trying to get off the boat first, ended up having to kind of like go back and say, yeah, we're sorry, we fucked up, to that guy's family and that area that he was from in England, because that wasn't at all.
Because he didn't actually shoot the guy.
Right.
Let alone shoot himself in the head.
Hollywood likes to drama. Hollywood pretty much is the king ladle because they like to stir up the nonsense and the bullshit to freaking cause some drama. And stuff, because that's what they do. They tell stories. They're not always true stories. So it is what it is. But do your research, do your homework, like look up the stuff, go to, if you want to watch something, go on. That's the best way that I learn stuff is to watch videos or short-term, long-term videos or whatnot. I mean, if I'm going to learn how to do something like doing my own DIY repairs or something like on my car or around the house, I watch YouTube. I watch like a whole bunch, ass ton of videos, figure out what I got to do it from there.
And when it comes to like my history stuff, man, I always reference like the sources, like, especially if it's like something from Europe. Like I'll go to like, okay, if it was something that happened in England, I'll go to like an English website. Like, okay, what does it say about this? You know what I mean? I'll look because I want to see what they're saying about it, because
and especially
their historians are 9 times out of 10, if not all the time, they're going to be more accurate than anybody else.
Yeah. And especially with well-documented things like this, like World War II. I mean, it's been 84 years. Like, there's going to be plenty of stuff that's talked about and documented, all this stuff. Like, was it you that said to me earlier this week? It's like, it's crazy we're going to be alive when the 100th anniversary rolls around. It's just like,
yep,
that's nuts. So,
I think I'm going to be like 50.
Let's not go there right now.
Something.
Let's just worry about talking about it. We ain't gotta do all that. We ain't gotta do all that. Okay, we ain't gotta do all that. So,
but I will say,
finding like source material from like there's plenty of these museums, man. Like everyone talks about how there's plenty of people that say museums are like kind of lame and nerdy. Like bullshit. Like there's some like stuff like I'll tell you, and not to change the subject here, but like I can tell you, going to museums are fantastic because like
museums are a forgotten fucking gem.
Oh,
they're a forgotten fucking gem. They really are.
Before my daughter was born, her mother and I went up to DC for a week.
Yeah,
because we were like, it's gonna be hard to take a vacation with a kid, so let's do it before the kid's born. It's like, okay, whatever. So we went to DC, and it was right around the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. So this was like November 2013. And one of the things that we went to was the U.S. Holocaust Museum in DC. Like, if you don't come out of there bothered, like, I'm going to ask you some questions and just be like, do you have a soul? What is going on here? Kind of thing. Because that, like, some of the stuff they go in there, like, and I don't want to ruin it, but like, you just go through there and you're just like, holy shit. Like it hits you so goddamn hard and like right in the feels, man. It's just like, oh, like if you're not moved to tears at certain points,
Yeah.
it's insane. But I digress.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, museums are great, man. Like they're awesome. I freaking love them. Like there's a Holocaust museum in here in St. Pete, and it's not nearly as in depth or immersive as the
Mhm.
one in DC, but like it does a trick. You know, it shows you some stuff, and you're just like, you know, just it's fucking heavy, man. But
Because it makes you think. As I like, which is why I get so upset when I hear about people trying to censor anything that's historical. Like history is not there to be
yeah,
censored. History is there to be experienced. Like, look, and this is to a certain demographic out there who believes that talking about certain people being enslaved, right? And I'm not
let's
trying
keep
to
it
be
generic,
controversial
dude.
here.
Let's not get canceled, man. Let's
I
keep it
know, I get
generic.
it. I'm just saying that, and
Speak your
not
piece, but just speak it carefully. Tread
I,
lightly.
I'm definitely trying to be. The Like, look, man, throughout history, it's happened, right? And that's confirmed, all over the planet. Every country has done it. Number one. But my thing is like there's acknowledgement there's acknowledgement of those things happening, and those things are terrible. Let's just be honest
Yeah.
here. All that is terrible. Slavery in general is just horrible. I mean, we have more slaves now in like our day and age than ever before in history. Like, and that's saying a lot considering that, in terms of recorded history, we're sitting at about quite a few millennia. So, and again, who knows how bad it was even, predating, actual recorded history. But still, man, like, I say that to say you can't acknowledge those things that were done that were terrible without like you can't also erase those individuals that committed those atrocities. And I say that because you have to learn from the wrongs that have been done. You can't just
Yeah.
say, I don't want to hear about this guy, or I don't want to hear about this individual. I don't want to hear about these things because they make me feel bad. Boo hoo. Boo hoo. History is meant to offend. History is meant to get you to think. Boo hoo.
You're on a
Grow
roll
up.
tonight, bud.
I'm
You're
just saying.
you're on a soapbox and you're on a roll, buddy.
I know. But I'm just saying.
Talk your ish, baby. Talk your ish.
You know, I love history for every bit of whether it offends me, whether I find it, well, like, holy crap, that's kind of bad. Like, I love history for what it is. Give me all of it. Give me everything that I need to know about it. Because you know what? I want to be able to inform people that come after me about the
Sure.
things that have happened, because you don't want those things to be repeated.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, it's kind of like what Mark Twain says, like, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. That's incredibly true when you're not actually teaching all the facts. And I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people censoring facts, whether it's
Yeah.
about somebody. And again, it's a lot of it. It comes down to, oh, well, that guy was horrible and a piece of this and a piece of that because whatever. Again,
My dude, my brother,
boo-hoo.
I'm not trying to censor you. I agree with you, but I also want to kind of steer us back to the conversation of
No, I
this
get it.
show.
No, I
So
get it. I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
no,
just
listen,
saying,
no,
look, dude,
bro. Listen, I listen. I understand where you're coming from. I agree with you. It's like, it's like, I always go back to that quote. I forget who said it, but those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
mhm.
That is not a more apt statement about things. It's just
Yeah.
like the whole thing with AI today, like there's and mine is a lot okay. So when I give evidence, it's a lot more sarcastic and stuff. I'm like, There's a whole bunch of movies from when we were growing up
Mm-hmm.
about why AI is bad, like Terminator, The
Mm-hmm.
Matrix.
Yep. Hell,
Duh.
even Tron, even though it was kind of like more aimed at like that, like one specific sci-fi audience, even Tron
Yeah.
has the aspects of that.
But I think they did a great job of doing a very contemporary tie together with the recent one that we saw, Ares, with
Yes.
what's going on now. It's like, oh yes,
Yes.
because that's what Disney likes to do is they'll take something and kind of poke at it a little bit. Like when you saw the movie Happy Feet, they talked about like all the construction stuff that was down there at the South Pole, and it was like polluting and stuff. Like a block of ice fell down. There was a big like construction piece that was going on. They're like, what kind of fish is that? What is going on here? Like that's what they do. Even
Yeah.
look at what was that movie? Um, the Blue People, Avatar. Um, I just said Blue People out loud. Damn it! Seriously,
The Navi, man.
the Smurfs.
The
Talking
Navi.
about the Smurfs? No,
Come on. The Navi.
but they were talking about like capitalism and evil corporations and stuff with all that junk. I still
Yeah.
haven't seen the second one yet. I got to see that. It's pretty.
I
good.
have it.
Okay, so I'll bring
We can watch it.
1941.
We
We'll
can
watch
watch
that.
it on the file. We can watch it on the 4K.
Let's do that. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so yeah, there was a lot of things that kind of contributed to Pearl Harbor. There
Absolutely.
was the radar thing. There was a whole
There was
So
even
what
the
it-
fuel. There was even the fuel restrictions that freaking FDR imposed on the Japanese that really fucking ticked them off.
so
Like,
and it was there
'cause
was
you-
that one article that you had posted.
Stupid alarm. Hold on. So on that too, like here's the
Yeah.
thing about the fuel restrictions, right? The reason that pissed off Japan so much is because as an industrial nation, they had still not reached the peaks that, like, say, for example, that the United States or some other industrialized nations had.
They were still on the up and up.
They were kind of like Germany in the sense that there was a very large majority of their armed forces that were still using horse-drawn carts for a lot of different things. A lot of people don't know that about the Germans. The Germans, even though they made some huge technological leaps during World War II, because they had some freaking brainiacs, that they still, I think it was a vast majority of their armed forces. I think it was like anywhere between 50 something percent or somewhat, maybe a little bit more than that, was still being drawn by horse, which they were trying to improve upon. But of course, because they started running out of funding at a certain point due to a certain let's just say he kind of
Messed up the war machine. Yeah, I got
messed up the war machine. The Japanese
yeah, I mean-
were in that same boat, but it was mainly because they had stretched themselves so thin across the Asiatic freaking,
theater of operations.
theater of operations. They had a war front in China. They had a war front in the Philippines. They had a war front. I mean, hell, they even, if I remember correctly, they actually went down to some parts of Korea. They went down into, where else did they go? Hell, they even attacked us in Alaska. Except, not even just freaking, Pearl Harbor, but I mean, the Alaska invasion came a little bit after the attack of Pearl Harbor, but I mean, that's a different story in itself. And boy, those National Guardsmen did such a hell of a job of freaking fighting those guys off. And not only that, but surviving with like 22 pistols to like catch small game and be able to eat and freaking, essentially they were hunting small game and hunting Japs the next day. You know what I mean? Hunting small game the first one day and then hunting Japs the next day. It's impressive when you read about the stuff that those guys did, man. The Alaska National Guard kicked some ass up there when they had to deal with what they were dealing with. But
do you want
it's
to
insane, dude.
Do you want me to read that article, the National World War II Museum article that you posted?
The
Path to Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna put it up on on the screen. Okay.
Read.
So this is an article that we referenced during our research for this episode. This is from the National World War II Museum.org. It is called The Path to Pearl Harbor. And it kind of gives you a little bit of background information. Some of the stuff we said already, but I'm just going to kind of go through it for those that are not able to watch. So, on December 7th, 1941, Japan staged a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, decimating the U.S. Pacific Fleet. When Germany and Italy declared war on the United States days later, America found itself in a global war. While Japan's deadly assault on Pearl Harbor stunned Americans, its roots stretched back more than 4 decades. As Japan industrialized during the late 19th century, it sought to imitate Western countries such as the United States, which had established colonies in Asia and the Pacific to secure national resources and markets for their goods. Japan's process of imperial expansion, however, put it on a collision course with the United States, particularly in relation to China. Oh, got to scratch my eyeball. Hold on.
Yeah, see what I'm talking about? That's exactly what I was mentioning before, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They stretched themselves too thin, and they really were doing a lot of their expansion with, if I remember correctly, a lot of American fuel, and they didn't have a lot of outsourcing. They didn't have anywhere to really harvest fuel, on the Japanese mainland or anything like that. They really they had to outsource a lot of resources, and it bit them in the ass. But anyway, continue.
Hardcore. Yep. Continuing on. To a certain extent, the conflict between the United States and Japan stemmed from their competing interests in Chinese markets and Asian natural resources. While the United States and Japan jockeyed peaceably for influence in Eastern Asia for many years, the situation changed in 1931. That year, Japan took its first step toward building a Japanese empire in Eastern Asia by invading Manchuria, a fertile, resource-rich province in northern China. Excuse me. Japan installed a puppet government in Manchuria, renaming it Manchukuo.
Manchukuo.
Thank you. But the United States refused to recognize the new regime or any other forced upon China under the Stimson Doctrine, named after Secretary of State and future Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson. The ineffectual Stimson Doctrine guided U.S. policy in Asia for the next decade. On one hand, the doctrine took a principled stand in support of Chinese sovereignty and against an increasingly militaristic Japanese regime. On the other hand, however, it failed to bolster that stand with either material consequences for Japan or meaningful support for China. In fact, U.S. companies continued to supply Japan with the steel and petroleum it needed for its fight against China long after the conflict between the countries escalated into a full-scale war in 1937. But a powerful isolationist movement in the United States countered that the nation had no business at all in the international conflicts developing around the world. Even the Japanese military's murder. Shut up. Even the Japanese military's murder of between 100,000 and 200,000 helpless Chinese military prisoners and civilians, and the rape of tens of thousands of Chinese women during the 1937 rape of Nanking failed to immediately shift U.S. policy.
Dude, pause for a second.
Yeah, what's up?
Have you ever read any documentation on the rape of Nanking?
I have, and it was pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's
I don't think we can probably discuss it here just because it's might be a little bit too extreme.
It's intense, yeah, and other and I know other channels that have done it. They have to heavily not redact information, but in kind of redact verbiage.
Just kind of alter the verbiage to meet guidelines. Yeah,
the guidelines for it. Yeah, it's pretty damn bad, man.
Yeah.
How just god awful that event in history was.
Yeah.
To say that the Japanese soldiers reacted harshly would be a vast understatement.
Yeah. The strong isolationist movement also influenced the initial U.S. approach to the war in Europe, where by the end of 1940, Nazi Germany controlled most of France, Central Europe, Scandinavia, and North Africa, and severely threatened Great Britain. Prioritizing the war in Europe over Japan's invasion of China, the United States allowed the sale of military supplies to Great Britain beginning in 1939. But neutrality laws and isolationist sentiment severely limited the extent of that aid prior to 1941. I'll read that quote when it comes up because it comes up here in just a minute. So I'm just gonna pass that. The war in Europe had another significant impact on the war in the Pacific because Germany's military successes unsettled the other European nations' Asian colonies. As Japan seized the opportunity to become the dominant imperial power in Asia, United States and Japan relations soured. As historian David M. Kennedy, PhD, explained, quote, each nation stepped through a series of escalating moves that provoked but failed to restrain the other, all the while lifting the level of confrontation to even riskier heights. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt made one of those escalating moves in July 1940 when he cut off shipments of scrap iron, steel, and aviation fuel to Japan, even as he allowed American oil to continue flowing to the empire. Japan responded by entering resource-rich French Indochina with permission from the government of Nazi-occupied France, and by cementing its alliance with Germany and Italy as a member of the Axis. In July 41, Japan then moved into southern Indochina in preparation for an attack against both British Malaya, a source for rice, rubber, and tin, and the oil-rich Dutch East Indies. This prompted Roosevelt to freeze all Japanese assets in the United States on July 26 of 1941, which effectively cut off Japan's access to U.S. oil. That move pushed Japan to secretly ready its, quote, Southern Operation, a massive military attack that would target Great Britain's large naval facility in Singapore and American installations in the Philippines and at Pearl Harbor, thus clearing a path for the conquest of the Dutch East Indies. While diplomatic talks continued between the United States and Japan, neither side budged. Japan refused to cede any of its newly acquired territory, and the United States insisted that Japan immediately withdraw its troops from China and Indochina. On November 26, 1941, as U.S. officials presented the Japanese with a 10-point statement reiterating their long-standing position, the Japanese Imperial Navy ordered an armada that included 414 planes aboard 6 aircraft carriers to set to sea. Following a plan devised by Admiral Yamamoto Isuroku, who had earlier studied at Harvard and served as Japan's naval attaché in Washington, the flotilla aimed to destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet base at Pearl Harbor. To catch the Americans by surprise, the ships maintained strict radio silence throughout their 3,500-mile trek from Hitukapu Bay to a predetermined launch sector 230 miles north of the Hawaiian island of Oahu. At 6 a.m. on Sunday, December 7th, a first wave of Japanese planes lifted off from the carriers, followed by a second wave an hour later. Led by Captain Mitsuo Fuchida, the pilots spotted land and assumed their attack positions around 7:30. 23 minutes later, with his bomber perched above the unsuspecting American ships moored in pairs along Pearl Harbor's Battleship Row, Fuchida broke radio silence to shout, "Tora, Tora, Tora," which translates to "Tiger, Tiger, Tiger." That was a coded message informing the Japanese fleet that they had caught the Americans by surprise. For nearly 2 hours, Japanese firepower rained down upon American ships and servicemen. While the attack inflicted significant destruction, the fact that Japan failed to destroy American repair shops and fuel oil tanks mitigated the damage. Even more significantly, no American aircrafts were at Pearl Harbor that day. The Japanese, however, immediately followed their Pearl Harbor assault with attacks against U.S. and British bases in the Philippines, Guam, Midway Island, Wake Island, Malaya, and Hong Kong. Within days, the Japanese were masters of the Pacific. In Washington, a decrypted message had alerted officials that an attack was imminent moments before Fuchida's planes took to the skies, but a communications delay prevented a warning from reaching Pearl Harbor in time. The Americans missed another opportunity when an officer discounted a report from the Oahu-based radar operator that a large number of planes were headed their way. At the White House, Roosevelt learned of the attack as he was finishing lunch and preparing to tend to his stamp collection. He spent the remainder of the afternoon receiving updates and writing the address he intended to deliver to Congress the following day, asking for a declaration of war against Japan. As he drafted and redrafted the speech, Roosevelt focused on rallying the nation behind a war many hoped to avoid. And that's where you heard the part of that speech at the very beginning where he's in front of Congress saying, December 7th, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a day which will live in infamy, the United States was deliberately and
Suddenly attacked.
by the naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. And yeah, I think so. Not to not to bring up the movie, but I will say that John Voight was very, very convincing as FDR.
He
Like,
was
with the makeup, and
actually,
it's just like,
yeah.
wow. It's like, holy crap.
An entire fleet at anchor. My God, my God.
It was good. I need to go.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go
He
back
did a
and
great
watch
job.
the movie.
I have the 2-disc DVD version of that movie.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I've contemplated rewatching it myself a couple of times just because, all the fictitious nonsense aside. I mean, honest to God, I really watch it for like the battle itself, as well as the what came after with Doolittle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but when you look at some of this, when you look at some of these, man, like and you think about survivors, like I have a 1 minute and 40-second video for one of the survivors of Pearl Harbor, and what he and how he
still alive or alive at the time of the video, obviously.
I believe this guy, was it 8 months ago? Yeah, this is 8 months ago that this video was posted. And this is Jack Colby is the guy being interviewed. Actually, hold on, let me share it real quick. Yeah, there it is. So this video, like I said, it's about a minute and 40 seconds long. Let's hear what he's got to say.
From the time he was an 11-year-old, young Jack Colby knew he wanted to serve his country. His father had been an infantryman in the big war, and now little Jack had his chance. He never knew his fate would be forever tied to history.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
It was a panorama in front of us. It was unbelievable. People running everywhere, planes bombing.
Colby was at the Schofield airstrip in Pearl when something happened that he would never get over.
And I was talking to a guy I had never met before. He was from another outfit. And I leaned over like this, and about that time, it blew his head off. I never knew him, and I went into shock.
Jack lost a lot of friends that day. In fact, we nearly lost Jack.
That would have killed me if it had been just a half-inch lower.
And it became Jack Colby's fate to tell his story, to relive that day, so the rest of us never forget.
There's the lucky ones of us, and there's the ones that weren't so lucky. And I'm a lucky one. I never believed on December 7th, 1941, that I would ever live to see 82. But I'm thankful, and I'm going to spend it well.
And you listen to that guy talk about it, and it's kind of impressive to really think about the fact that, you know, and not to say that he was nonchalant about talking about, the guy that was hit and, was, taken out of the battle before he could even really do anything. But he was very, a lot of those guys back then were very straightforward individuals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They said it the way it was. They said what was on their minds. When a man spoke back then, he spoke what he believed typically was the truth. And that's not to say that there weren't BS artists back then. There were, of course. I mean, there's BS artists in every era. But, the way those guys grew up, and you can tell, it affected them. It affected them for sure. But, I mean, there was like, I would say kind of like I would say probably a little less of a stigma back then for how to handle things back then. You kind of just, knew what you had to do and just you moved on, and it always fascinates me thinking about how World War II vets, whether it's, the guys that fought, in the Battle of the Bulge, survived Pearl Harbor, all these different things, how these guys, are able to kind of like go back and talk about these things,
Yeah.
A lot of guys, a lot of guys don't talk about it, you know what I mean? But I think the guys that end up, kind of and end up being the ones that are, I would say, a little bit more well off, are usually the ones that are able to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
And I say this to say, there's guys and gals, there's nothing wrong with talking about your experiences. Whether you were in the shit or whether you were, close to the shit and you were just doing, things that, were kind of like backup type roles, you talking about your experiences, I think, is something that's going to help you in the long run because it gives you the ability to kind of look back and reflect. And I think we've got another video too. This one is on Lou Conter. I believe he's the most recent one that passed, right? Lou Conter.
So Lou Conter, I was actually making sure I had my facts right for this because I had a feeling you were going to go there. So Lou Conter is one of two of the last surviving guys from Arizona. They're both
Arizona,
now,
yeah, from the
they're
Arizona.
both deceased now. So there's two names. So there was another guy by the name of Lauren Bruner, who's a fire controlman. He was the last crew member interred within the USS Arizona itself, with his ashes placed in the hull on December 7th of 2019, exactly 78 years after the attack. Lou Conter, that you just mentioned, is the last living survivor of the entire USS Arizona crew. He passed away back in April of 2024 at the age of 102.
Woo!
He chose to be buried in
Lived a
California.
long, good life.
Yeah. He chose to be buried in California next to his wife rather than in the ship. But the reason that that is significant is he is the last living survivor of the crew. So the living link to the Arizona crew is now officially gone with history.
Gone.
Yeah.
And
it
I
was
think
cool from what I understand when they took the other gentleman down, Lauren Bruner, when he was placed and interred in the hull with his shipmates, the divers that took him down were actually wearing all World War II era dive gears, like the big old like giant brass, diving bubbles and stuff. Like pretty much all the stuff that like the insignia for divers is made out, like what it resembles and what it's supposed to signify. They were wearing all of that shit, and it's like awesome.
Dope.
It's freaking dope as crap.
Yeah.
So that would be cool, man. To go out to Hawaii and see the Arizona. the memorial after, that would be freaking amazing. Like,
Dude, the
oh,
energy coming off of that thing must
Yeah.
be like a somber energy, man.
Yeah.
Like, and actually let's
yeah, go ahead
listen
and
to
play
what
that video, man. I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to keep dragging on there, bud.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's listen to what Lou has to say, because I'm pretty sure this is an interview.
No sound.
No sound.
Well, the ceremony, December 7th, they asked me if I'm glad to come out and everything, and I always tell them that it's an honor to come out and pay tribute to the 2,403 servicemen that were killed that day, and including 1,177 of my shipmates on the USS Arizona. And that's mainly what I come out for, is to pay homage to those and all of the other World War II veterans that died after that. I was on the quarterdeck. I was quartermaster third class, and my job was to steer. That was a channel helmsman. That was job was to steer the ship in and out of port. Out to sea, we always had other men on the helm, boatswain mates and so forth from different divisions. But coming in and out of port, I steered the ship in and out of port with the pilot and captain on board and everything. So in port, the quartermaster station is on the quarterdeck between turret 3 and mainmast. It's got an office there in the mainmast. And that's where the gangplank, the guys go on liberty and everything. We can check them, keep the log and everything. At sea, our station is a bridge where every officer deck is, and the navigator and everything else. And so I was down there. It was 5 minutes to 8. We had 8 to 12 watch on Sunday. 5 minutes to 8, the planes started coming over. We knew immediately what they were. And we signed general quarters, and everybody went to their battle stations. And 100% of the Arizona band went to their battle stations. And 7 minutes later, the bow of the ship blew up and it was on fire, and every one of them were killed. We lost 1,177 there in about 8 minutes of morning battle. They had a 1,600-pound armor-piercing shell that the bombers dropped from 10,000 feet. It was no doubt a lucky hit, because it's pretty tough to hit them from 10,000 feet, that spot. And they hit on the starboard side of the deck by number 2 turret, went through 5 decks into the lower handling room, which is the handling room for all the ammunition for turret 1 and turret 2. There was over 1 million pounds of powder in there.
Landed right in the battery.
When it went in there and exploded, it exploded that 1 million pounds of powder. And the bow came out about 30 to 40 feet out of the water and settled straight back down. And she's still settling right there right now. And everything was afire forward of the mainmast. Men were coming out of the fire, on fire, burning, wanted to jump over the side, but the oil was burning. And Commander Fuqua gave us orders to lay him down on deck, even if we had to render him unconscious, until we could get him into a lifeboat and get him to the hospital. And that's what we did. And we were on the ship for about 40 minutes and then abandoned ship. And we got out, took all the people we could out of the bay and everything alive to the hospital, and came back and helped battle the fire until Tuesday. And we went to the base force and rested. It took about 5 days for it to cool down. And then we went back aboard. And a couple of guys, Pete Huzar, and our main diver, he was what got off. About 20 of us went back and set up 3 air pumps with shallow water helmets. And he took his regular helmet, and he went down and stayed down for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And we'd only stay down about 30 minutes looking at hatches and looking for people, and brought out a few dead bodies, only about 6 or 8. And he called it off. It was too dangerous, because people, we're getting air hoses caught on the edges of hatches and everything else. So he called it off. And our executive officer was Captain Geiselman. He was ashore. His family was there in Honolulu. and they made him provost marshal. Remember, that was territorial wide. There was no state then. And he went to Honolulu and set up his office, and he called Pete Huzar and myself in. There'd be many people at Shore Patrol. And we had a little Jeep with a 30 caliber machine gun in the back. And the order went out to the people that nobody would on the streets after sunset or before sunrise, they get shot. And the people knew we meant what we said. And there was no attorneys telling us, we can't do this, you can't do that. And we ran it the way it should have been run and the way it was run, and it was a good. And that order was in effect until May of 1945. We did our job, got it done as the best we could. And thank God we won World War II.
But like, going back to, just talking about the guys from that era, it's like they got shit done. It was like that was the
They
order.
damn sure did, man. This is a different time.
It was
Absolutely different time, man.
It's guys like that. You see why Churchill said, "Hey, America just won World War II." So
yeah.
yeah, it's it's good history to look at. It's somber, but it's good history to look at because especially being in the military, I kind of a nerd for military history events like that. So it's always fun. Like it was fun learning about it in high school and whatnot and all that kind of jazz. So
yeah, there's one more website that I had on here. It's literally pearlharbor.org. This is actually short snippets from different survivors of that day. One of them being let's see, what's his name? He's a native Hawaiian. Check this out, man. It says Pearl Harbor survivor Herb Weatherwax chronicles not just his time in the military, but also his life growing up in Honolulu. Like this is actually a book that you can actually pick up and read. It's called "Counting My Blessings" by Herb Weatherwax. And honestly, a couple of these I've actually looked at. I kind of want to actually pick up. And it says, while readers get caught up in the events of December 7th, 1941 in this detailed autobiography, the native Hawaiian has plenty of stories to tell that make his engaging make this an engaging reading experience. You get to read about how the attack and World War II affected the island. And how it puts it into perspective, right? Damn it, and then like essentially what the Japanese did and all that stuff. It says this autobiography by a man who could often be found later in life chatting with visitors to Pearl Harbor is a great read for anyone who's interested in Hawaii's culture. Like, and it goes on. Like, there's like multiple books, right? About just that day, and go figure. Fushida himself actually has a book of his own, apparently. It says From Pearl Harbor to Calvary. And it's literally written by Mitsuo himself. It says, while these books all have the Pearl Harbor survivors tell their stories, this one is a bit different. Mitsuo Fushida was the lead Japanese pilot in the Pearl Harbor attack, famous to giving the order Tora, 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 signaling that the attackers had achieved complete surprise. In the years after the attack in World War II, Fuchida's life changed drastically. His autobiography tells of his turn to Christianity and the American who brought religion into the former pilot's life. From Pearl Harbor to Calvary is a unique book. A unique look at the events of December 7th, 1941, through the eyes of the attacker who led the charge. Dude,
That would be a pretty interesting read.
that would be a fantastic. I actually really want to get that book. I think that would be a fantastic read. Just to have that contrast of like, because you're like, you got to remember one thing about the Japanese forces, whether it was the Navy or whether it was the Army, and there was a lot of infighting between the Army and the Navy too. The Japanese Imperial Army and Navy back then as well. There was a lot of infighting because, we're the Army, we could do it better, we could end it in such and such, and the Navy, we could do it better and we can end it in such and such. But they kind of had their differences, obviously, on how they would handle things. But to have that kind of like a contrast, like both of those military forces treated the emperor like he was God King on earth. Like he
they believed he was they believed he was a deity
of God. Yeah. He was supposed to be a descendant of God. And that's why they worshiped him the way he was. He was supposed to be essentially God incarnate on earth.
So do you know the story of why one of the I know this from Brian, as a matter of fact. So one of the rifles that they used was a Japanese Arisaka rifle.
Yes,
and
I remember
one
that.
of the signifying marks of a legit Arisaka is right on the action of the right above the bolt on the metal is a mum, which is a chrysanthemum, and that was the symbol of the emperor,
the Japanese emperor. Yeah.
So if they were captured, they would much rather take that and deface the chrysanthemum, the mum. They would take and scratch out the mum as a way to honor the emperor, so that it did not fall into enemy hands with his logo and his brand on it, pretty much.
Yeah.
So to find they're out there, but if you find an Arisaka with a chrysanthemum,
you got to look real hard to find one, and I'm willing to guarantee that thing is going to be expensive as hell.
I'd have to go back and look, because I've looked at them before and I've had the conversation with several people and I don't remember what, but yes.
Yeah.
So the other book that you had, it was also listed on the website.
I think the contrast on that, though, to see Fuchida himself go from someone who literally fell in line with an emperor who, he more than likely for a while followed as essentially, like I said, as God King on earth, right? To going and converting, right?
Christianity.
That's a fascinating read. I think I'm actually going to look for that book and find it on Amazon.
Yeah, dude.
But go ahead. You were saying the other book, what?
Yeah, so there's another book that they have on here, and this would be kind of interesting to read as well. It's called A True American, and it's a story about the story of a Pearl Harbor survivor, World War II, Korean, and Vietnam War veteran. Like 3-war veteran. Like those guys aren't too much around anymore. It's like when you see a guy with like 2 or even 3 stars on a CIB, you're just like, hey, they're old timer. What's going on, man?
What's the saying? How's the saying go? Be aware of the man.
Be wary of an old man in a career where most men die young.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Ranger Up has a T-shirt that says something like that. In a world where most men die young, be wary of the old man, or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's like,
which is still badass.
It's badass as hell. So. Anyway, did you have anything else you want to add, dude? We're kind of already over the hour mark, man.
Honestly, look, we covered Pearl Harbor because we thought it was really fitting for, especially this time frame. I mean, the 84th anniversary?
84th anniversary on Sunday.
Jeez, oh my God. The 84th anniversary of Pearl Harbor is coming up, and it was even more fitting because this year specifically, it's actually falling on the same exact day of the week
on
that the actual attack occurred back in 1941. And all I'm gonna kind of like the way the attack went down that day, and then of course, bringing it kind of full circle to right now, right? These guys, they experienced something. Just imagine experiencing something that they had to be terrifying, right? And all you know is shit. There's planes. They're dropping bombs, and all of a sudden, just all hell breaks loose. And you're going through that for 2 hours. 2 hours,
Literally hell on earth.
literally.
Yeah.
And we're talking across, 3 branches of the military at the time. We're talking about the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Army, because they were all stationed there. The Army Air Corps was there. The U.S. Navy was there. And like how Mako mentioned earlier in one of the articles, how the aircraft carriers were not at the harbor at the time.
And that was a very deciding factor that led to us having
to be able to turn it around.
Yeah, that and the Battle of Midway.
That and the Battle of Midway. Like the fact that we still had ships that could transport, troops in some way, shape, or fashion was essentially a godsend. Yeah. And the Japanese were incredibly pissed off about that when they found that out. They had, in that aspect, kind of miscalculated, because when that was what they were trying to destroy to begin with. The aircraft carriers, this is I call it divine invention, man. That's just me. But all aircraft carriers had left. I think it was, what was it? 48 hours prior? And then
sounds about right.
The planes came rolling in after that. And I remember, I think Fuchida himself actually is recorded saying something about how we got there and there were no aircraft carriers, which were our main targets. But since we were still there, we still went forward with the attack because we could still, I'm going to say it loosely. He's basically was saying like we could still do enough damage that may cause the American forces, the United States, to not, do anything not fight back and maybe capitulate to our demands, which through the annals of history, we all know that didn't happen. But yeah, so it's all very fascinating when you think about the different aspects of that battle, the survivors that, survived it. We only touched on, barely a handful of people that were there and survived it.
Well, just the fact that when that gentleman said 1,177 shipmates never came out of there, it's just like
in one sitting, one bomb.
And I mean, and it was 2,403, I think, total service members. That it was the most deadly attack on the military, and then that was not.
Yep.
And that stood until the attacks of 9/11, when it was like 3,000 people that died in one.
And that was all civilian.
Majority civilians.
Majority.
I mean, you had firemen,
first responders
and stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy to think about, man. So,
I would say, we gotta let history be history, and kind of evaluate things, and try not to let history rhyme or repeat itself, because we've kind of gone down that rabbit hole, and things are not looking good for us right now.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Not to get too heavy or too negative and stuff. I mean, it was kind of a subject matter kind of show, but yeah.
I think honestly we should
do better.
We should do better, and Ooh, I got a subject that I kind of want to cover. I don't know what you're gonna think about it, but
Let's
it's
talk
also
off
World
air.
War II related.
Let's talk
So,
off air. Let's wrap this one up, and then we'll talk off air when we get off.
yes, sure.
Did you have anything else you want to add though before I start closing this out?
No, sure.
All right. So thanks everybody for joining us for our chat on Pearl Harbor. Sunday, December 7th of 2025 is the 84th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So that's why we want to talk about it. Just, Christmas season kind of stuff. Don't want to get so down and heavy on certain things, but history is always good to talk about and learn from and try to refresh the minds of maybe those who have not been exposed to it or are learning about it for the first time.
Yep.
If you kind of catch our drift. So that's why we talked about it. It's one of those things, like with those last two guys gone, there are no living survivors from the Arizona. So we've lost the ability to talk to those guys and interview them and,
Yep.
explain all their stuff. So,
And it's sad too, because very soon we're not going to have any more World War II veterans.
yeah.
And it's just going to be again a part of the annals of history, and the only thing that we're going to have left of them are letters and reports that they did.
Historical documentation. Yeah. I was just looking at something when I was trying to find the names of those guys, and you brought it up. They said there's about 14 or 16 living survivors of Pearl Harbor left of the entire thing. So it's like that's soon going to be gone. So, but
yeah.
Anyway,
Lord knows we could freaking lose a lot. We could lose half those guys in like a single year, dude.
Yeah, man. It won't be long.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just old age and time charges on. So
yep.
But anyway, I guess as I said, that's our chit chat on the topic of Pearl Harbor, the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 41. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us ramble about being complete nerds about history. We appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. So we're going to start closing out the show like we always do. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. This is one of the more fun things we like to do, talking about history stuff, because, as I said, we're both nerds. We had a fantastic history teacher in high school who was also a veteran, Mr. Burnham, who just really made history
Love you,
fun.
Mr. B.
Yeah. Miss him too. He just made learn about this stuff like so much fun, and that's why I think I enjoy it so much still to this day. But
yep.
So, like I said, if you're new to the show, Alamo and I have been friends for a long time. We met in high school. We both graduated high school. We were both in high school together for the 2001-2002 school year. 9/11 happened when we were in school. It's clear to say that it altered the trajectory of our lives from that point on. Alamo and I both went on to serve in the Army post 9/11. Alamo was active duty and deployed to Iraq. I ended up spending time in the National Guard for the state of Florida and went to Afghanistan for a deployment. And we've been friends ever since. We also ended up working in the private sector, which was a blast. Kind of went our own ways. While we were working in the private sector, we had a friend of ours named John who also worked with us. Hilarious dude. Just made work so much fun. Like, I'm surprised we didn't get in more trouble, to be 100% transparently clear and honest. But we all kind of left there, went our own ways. Alamo's lovely wife reached out to me about working an event for her channel, which is flipsidementorship.com. If you have kids and you want them to have positive influences in their life, those are the folks to check out. They have wonderful things going on over there. We have been an unofficial partner with them for several years now, pretty much since we've got this podcast up and running, and it's always fun to see the kids come out and talk to them and take part in that kind of stuff. So great time. Flipsidementorship.com. Give it a look-see. It'll be worth your time, I promise you. So we worked our first event there, and Alamo and I had a great time. And Alamo was like, dude, we should do something to get back together because I miss hanging out. We live in opposite sides of the state now. You're out in Deltona. I still live in the Tampa area. So it's about 100 miles in between us, which isn't far, but it's still far enough to where it's like we don't see each other all the time kind of thing. Sorry, my watch is beeping at me, and I should have taken it off. My fault. So
It happens.
he discussed doing a podcast, and I was like, dude, I don't know anything about I don't listen to any of them. I've since listened to them now, obviously. But I was like, I don't know shit about a podcast. Like, dude, they put a monkey in outer space. How hard can it be? I'm like, yeah, you're talking my kind of logic, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. So, we kind of started talking about this. Well, in this process, we found out that our friend John that I mentioned earlier, unfortunately solved a temporary problem with some permanent solutions, and he is no longer with us. So I found out about it through a friend of his on Facebook, and I called Alamo, and I was like, dude, did you hear about John? He goes, no, his birthday's coming up or something. I got to call him. I was like, you can't, he's gone. So for me, that was the come to Jesus aha moment. Like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. So I told him, hey, I'm in for the long haul. Let's push this forward. So we kind of started conceptualizing the name, what we're gonna do, what our identity and our brand, for lack of a better term, is gonna be. So we came up with the name of Battle Bros, and we also came up with the Bros Code. And what the Bros Code is
Battles Bros.
it's easy. It's 4 easy things you can do to keep yourself in the fight if you're having a rough day, if things are getting hard. Okay, you just got to remember the Battle Bros Code, and you'll be good to go. So all you got to remember is BROS, and you're good to go. Okay, so the first one being be tenacious. No matter what you choose to do in life, what journey or path you select in front of you, do it with tenacity, fervor, and just unfaltering resiliency. Okay, go out there and do it to the best of your ability, whether you're being a parent, a mentor, a teacher, whether you're going to be, whatever title you want to seek and earn and claim. Go out there and do it with, piss and wind and piss and vinegar running through your veins and all that stuff, and don't take no for an answer.
And
In
whiskey.
the word, and yeah, bourbon's good too. So, in the words of the great Ron Swanson, don't half-ass 2 things, whole ass 1 thing. Be tenacious. R, refuse to surrender. As you may have experienced or seen others experience many times in life, there are going to be times when you get off track. You're going to get, sideways, turned around, disoriented from your mission, from your path, from your journey. That's okay. Whatever happens, don't let it beat you. Don't quit. If you get knocked down in the dirt, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, bust out your old trusty Landsat compass, reshoot your azimuth, get a heading, get a distance, and start going. Okay, refuse to surrender. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. Kind of going along with the last one, whatever obstacles come up, find a way to circumnavigate them. Okay, whether it's a wall, if you have to climb over or under a wall or go around a wall, punch a hole through it, whether it's C4 Bangalore's armored vehicle, whatever the case may be, whatever it takes to get and conquer these obstacles to continue onto your path, do that. Obliterate your obstacles and keep moving towards the OBJ. Last and most importantly, S, seek help in a time of need. As I mentioned with our friend John, I don't know, and we'll never know what kind of demons were going on with him and what caused him to make that, ultimate decision that he made. And that's really just a tragic loss, because John was a
Don't
guy.
listen to it, folks. Don't listen to the demons.
Yeah. I mean, John was a guy like anybody else that was worth knowing, worth listening to. God damn, did he love to laugh, dude. We had so much time just stitches in our sides, just, oh man, just having a freaking grand old damn time,
Heck
just
yeah.
working together, and it just made work so much fun, and I could yeah, that laugh.
Oh man.
But he was a great dude. He was a funny fucker, man. But if him being here meant we didn't have to do this podcast, then I would be okay with that concession. Like, he
Yeah.
deserves to be here. He deserves to have his stories told and his wisdom and all that kind of stuff being passed. So that's why we have this show. If you ever feel yourself in a bad spot where you feel like you're gonna take that final decision and try to bow out or whatever, stop. Okay, don't do that. Get help from somebody. That help can come in a lot of different places. It can come from a friend, a family member, a loved one, fellow service member. You know, there's been times where he's called me and I've called him, and you know, we've talked about some stuff, and we're here for each other and all that kind of junk. If you don't have somebody that fits that category, there are options out there. If you feel like you're going to harm yourself, stop and call one of these following numbers to get you some help. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, you can call them at 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 800-273-8255, or just dial TALK, Tango Alpha Lima Kilo, 1-800-273-TALK. You can also dial the 3-digit number 988. Again, that's 988. Once you get on the line there, you're going to press 1 to talk to a live operator. They have people there 24/7 to help you through your time of crisis and whatnot, and get you the help you deserve and that you need as well. We are such a small group of subsect of society, that we need to help each other out as best we can. Military veterans, first responders, the whole gang. Our big mission is to try to stop this number right here. This is a bracelet from Till Valhalla Project, kind of like a KIA bracelet, but it's just a reminder that, on average, 22 veterans a day make that permanent decision to not be here anymore. And that is what we are trying to combat.
Yeah.
So if
We
you
might want to talk about that subject too, because I think from our research that we've seen just a little bit, like it's looking like it's gone up.
really,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's the mission that we're on. We want to stop things from happening like that happened to our friend John. My daughter asked me a while back, she goes, "How many followers do you have?" I'm like, "Sweetie," I said, "that's not really a metric that I personally am tracking. If somebody come up to me and said, 'Hey man, I was going to take myself out, but I saw your show and it made me stop and pause and reflect and think, and I'm here because of you guys," I would just think that to be the highest form of praise and humility of like, hey, we stopped somebody from going down that same path. So
Yeah.
that's fucking awesome. Like, let's keep that up. So, but again, with S, just remember, if you are in a bad spot or you need some help, reach out, talk to somebody, man. Just talking to somebody, giving them the benefit and the gift of your time to listen to them while they're talking about stuff. And that's a big stepping stone in the right direction. So if you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek help in a time of need, you're going to have a pretty good chance of getting yourself to be a little bit more of okay for that day. And then from there, you move on to the next day and the next day and the next day and get yourself moving in a positive direction. So please remember those. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to hand it off to Alamo. He's going to take care of all the social media stuff. And then we're going to wrap it up for this week.
So, social medias. There's lots of them, and we're on lots of them. Facebook is one of those platforms. You could go to facebook.com/battle bros.podcast, and you can go ahead and find us there, and you can you're drinking your are you drinking your Monster?
Yeah, dude.
You can also find us on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast, or even on the X, aka formerly InstaTwit, at BattleBrosPC. You can message us on the instant messenger on each one of those platforms and drop likes, drop shows that you want to hear about or subjects that you want to hear about. And even tell us, hey, thanks for the good job, guys, on that last episode, or hey, not feeling too ill, guys. How you doing? If you guys feel like addressing us just a little bit more privily, you could always do that on our Gmail at battlebrospc@gmail.com. That is battlebrospc@gmail.com. Again, show ideas, comments, complaints, all that good stuff, even down to saying, hey, We're looking for that one message one of these days where somebody says, "Hey, you guys may be maybe some goofy turds, but you really got us out of that situation. Got me out of that situation that made me almost make a bad decision." And honestly, we would be jumping off the walls with freaking happiness off of that, man. So, definitely freaking, give us a shout. Let us know what you guys think about the show. Let us know what subjects you guys want to hear about, because we're always willing to hear about what you guys are interested in and what you guys want to hear. If you like what you hear and here with us, we are on multiple different platforms. Aside from YouTube, you can find us on rumble.com, where you can go to rumble.com and then just search in the search bar Battle Bros, all one word in lowercase. That's Battle Bros, all one word in lowercase, and it'll take you directly to our channel. But you can also find us on Spotify. You can find us on iHeartRadio and multiple other podcasting platforms, where you could listen to us in the vehicle, which, by the way, in Spotify, you can actually watch and listen to us. But if you're in the vehicle, don't do that. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Be safe. Okay. Yeah. So just remember, man, like, we're here for you guys, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that you guys are feeling loved on, and know that you guys we're here for you.
Valued, appreciated.
Just
Love.
know that if anybody tells you
Respected, yeah.
guys, exactly, if anybody tells you guys you suck, hey, don't listen to those words. Take it from me and Mako. We love you guys. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
We've
all
got
I
to
got.
do a corny ass like Valentine's Day show one of these years. Like, oh god, it'd be so good.
Yeah.
But on that note, folks, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate for the folks that have been with us for part or all of this journey. We thank you for being a part of this. We cannot do this without you.
Yes, sir.
We're still, even though we've been on, this is our 6th season of doing episodes. We're still a small time podcast. A lot of times it might take the scenario that I've routinely mentioned in previous shows that we've done is just people listening to this show. It might not be for you, the message that's being spoken, but hey, you might get it to somebody that needs to hear what they're talking about. And it's like, oh, okay. Guys were funny looking. The one guy with the big ass head, and the other guy, clean cut looking dude. Kind of funny, but then I started listening to what they were saying, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I came back, and it's kind of getting me in a better place. So,
yep,
that would be just absolutely amazing. If we could, it would just be incredible. So,
or as our commander in chief would like to say, that would be huge.
And we lost 2 viewers. Anyway, again, thank you so much for being part of this tonight or previously or continually with this journey with us. We appreciate it. We cannot do it without you, and we want to say thank you, and we'll continue to say thank you as many times as we can. This has been episode 117, Remembering Pearl Harbor. Please be careful out there driving around. It is a full night tonight, a full moon tonight. So people are already acting weird.
The full moon has awakened.
Yeah, it's been a long day, so I'm gonna go smoke a cigar as soon as I get off here. So that's what I got going on. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, it's supposed to be getting a little cooler this weekend too.
Oh, next week it's supposed to be glorious. It's supposed to be getting out of the 50s at night.
Yes.
I just hope Hillsborough County rescinds their burn ban so I can use my fire pit, because it's been like a good week and a half. I'm like,
yeah,
so I gotta wait till Monday to find out. But again, thank you so much.
I got a fire pit that just runs on gas, so I'm glad about that one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's propane, so you can just turn it off. Damn it. Again, folks, this has been the Battle Bros Podcast, episode 117, Remembering Pearl Harbor. My name is Mac. This is Alamo. Thank you so much for stopping by. And please remember, when things get heavy and things get serious, stop for a second and just recall these 4 things. Be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, and most importantly, seek out help in a time of need. And if you can do that, you're going to make it a better day for yourself and on to the next day. So until we see you again, folks, this is the Battle Bros Podcast, signing off.
Battle Bros out.